Hey there. All right. What I'm about to talk about is probably one of the most commonly stated goals of guests when they come on a retreat. And unfortunately, it is the hardest thing to teach. And that is how to read waves. Reading waves it's a science, but it's also an art. And it takes years to master. All of us surfers, we are constantly building up our mental schema because really what you're doing is predicting the future. You have to see a lump of water coming at you way out in the distance, and you're reading all the little lumps and changes, the way that the light is reflecting off of the wave. There's all these subtle cues that your senses are taking in, even the sound. You're taking all this data, all this these little sensory inputs, and you're trying to extrapolate out in the future and try and figure out what that lump of water is going to look like in 5, 10, 15 seconds, even up to several minutes in advance. And that's really hard. It takes a lot of years of building up that mental schema in order to accurately predict what's going to happen. Now, of course, the more waves you watch, the quicker you're going to be able to build up that body of knowledge. So the first step is observing. During retreats when I'm coaching people, that is the first thing that I'm really trying to drill into their heads is look, watch the wave. Watch the wave as you're paddling for it. Watch the wave as you're riding it. You can even practice this before paddling out. You can sit on the beach and watch the waves coming in. And I'm talking about accurately watching them. See the lump of water building. Watch it grow. Watch it change. Watch it break. And then try to understand what's happening on that wave, and then watch the next one and go, okay, here comes that lump again. Where's it going to break? I think it's going to break there. Oh no, it didn't. It backed off and didn't break there. It did break here. It broke all at once. Is this a left? Is this a right? The more you can really pay attention, then the more you're going to start building up that information. Because I think at first people go to the beach and they just like see waves and like that's it. They just see, oh, there's breakers. I see breakers out there. There's breaking. The waves are breaking, you know, and they don't have any language to describe it, and they don't see the little details that as an experienced surfer, you go and you look at the waves and you're like, oh, it's, you know, waist to chest high and it's a little bit onshore and it's kind of choppy and it's a little low tide and it's sort of closing out. Oh, there's a good one. You know, you see so many more details with time. You build up the language. So the first thing to be aware of, the very, very basics of reading waves is it a left or is it a right? I realize there's some beginners in this course and you may be wondering at something as simple as that. So the waves are determined to be lefts or rights from the surfer's perspective. So if I'm on my belly paddling into the wave and I'm going to be going to the left, then that's a left, or a right, then that's a right. Be aware that the surfer paddling out or from the perspective of the beach, it's the opposite. If you're standing on the beach, here I am standing on the beach looking out to the waves, the wave coming, if it's moving from left to right, it's actually called a left. And obviously the opposite is true because it's from the surfer's paddling into the waves perspective. So how we decide if waves are breaking one way or the other, typically waves start breaking here and go in one direction or the other. Now there's always the good old-fashioned closeout. That's a wave that breaks all at once. If it has a slight leftward lean, but eventually it's going to close out too, you could still call it a closeout. Some people call it a nice straight hander. There's a left, there's a right, and there's a straight hander. So that's kind of the very first thing. So now that we know which way it's going left or right, where you want to be, the goal is to be in a position where you are close to the breaking part of the wave and going away from it. So in order to catch the wave, you need to be where it's standing up and about to break, but you don't want to be too far in so that it's going to break on top of you, or too far out so that you're paddling, and the wave still hasn't broken. I know one thing that's real common when people are first learning how to surf is they think that every wave they paddle for has to be at 110% paddling as hard as you freaking can. Most people will they'll be sitting out there in the lineup, they're sitting there on their boards, they see a wave coming and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna sit right here and I'm gonna wait for this wave to come. I'm gonna wait for this wave to come. Okay, now it's getting closer to me. I'm still sitting right here. Now I'm gonna turn around. And now imagine I've turned around. Now I'm facing the beach. I'm gonna put my head down and I'm gonna paddle my little heart out. Paddle, 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 paddle. And that's it. And then the wave breaks on top of them, or they don't catch it, or it thrusts them over the falls. So you want to be looking where you're going at all times. And you might need to paddle out to go get the wave. Like if you're sitting here and here comes the wave and it's going to break outside of you, you might actually have to paddle out to it, sit up on your board, spin around, and then paddle into it. Okay, so I see lines coming up top. That's my indicator that tells me that it's set. It's probably going to come down this way. Doesn't really work at a beach break so much, but definitely at a point break, you want to be looking like far up the point to see if there's any waves coming, and then kind of be checking your lineup. Okay, where's my lineup on the beach? All right, I think I'm in a good spot. So now I'm going to look back and see if I see lines approaching. I do. So you can see as the wave stands up, it actually darkens in color as it gets steeper and starts to break. Here comes some lines, so I'm going to want to paddle right now. So I stuck the GoPro in my mouth, and now I'm going to paddle out. I saw the waves coming, so instead of just sitting in one spot and waiting for them to come to me, I'm going to paddle out to them. So I'm paddling out, and I'm also paddling at an angle to get myself in position where I think the wave is going to break. And then I'm going to sit up on my board and flip around towards the beach and paddle for the wave. Now I'm out surfing by myself right now, so I don't need to look back to see if anyone's behind me. I'm just going to look down the line and walk up to the nose. Yoo-hoo-hoo. Looking at the curve of the wave, maybe a little hang 10, why not? Okay, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, back to that. I'll have to like tell people, this is a good one, and then they just sit there, and I'm like, no, we need to like paddle out to it, because if we just sit here, it's gonna break on top of us. You also can paddle sideways. So the wave is coming, but you're sitting over here on what we call the shoulder, right? There's the peak, that's where the wave is breaking, and then there's the shoulder. So that's like further away from the peak where the wave is like tapered down. So you're sitting on the shoulder, here comes the wave, you turn to paddle for it, you're paddling, you're not gonna catch it because the peak is over here. So you might need to paddle to the peak and then turn and catch it. Oh, paddle towards the peak! That way. The peak is that way. Paddle towards the peak. Paddle towards the peak. These are all things to kind of be aware of. And how are you going to know where you need to go? You got to look. This is where there's no secret handshake. There's no secret password. You just have to be looking and deciding for yourself. Interestingly, someone left a comment at one point and they said that one of their coaches told them, in order to catch a wave, you need to do 6 strong paddles with 3 paddles with your board in the direction of the break. And I was like, okay. I had a good laugh, actually. I like copy and pasted it and sent it to like our other surf instructors. I was like, imagine if that's all you had to do. Well, that little statement, you need 6 paddles, doesn't have anything to do with anything, because where are you sitting? Are you sitting too far out? You might need 12 paddles. Are you sitting too far in? You might need 2 paddles. Are you going to need to paddle over to the peak or over into this direction? So yeah, there's no one sentence, there's no one paragraph, there's not even a 5-paragraph essay that I could tell you that you could just read and go, okay, sweet, now I know how to read waves. It really comes from experience, from exposure, from looking at the wave. So what are you looking for? When I'm sitting out in the lineup, really what you're looking for, it's a change in color. Because if you've ever been out in the water on a very gray, overcast day where there's no wind, like you're sitting out there in the water and the ocean surface is super calm, super glassy, and the sky is overcast and so gray so that the ocean and the sky all looks like one color, it's incredibly hard to see the waves coming. Same thing if it's dark. You ever surfed in the dark, moonlight? If you haven't, I recommend it. It's really fun. But you can't see the wave until it is right on top of you. And the only way you know it's going to break is you see the line of white water. So color is really important. So you're looking for the shadow. You're looking for the shadow as the wave pops up. Like you'll see like a little lump on the surface maybe, but what you'll really see is the change in color. It'll be darker as it pops up. You see the shadow come rising, and then as it breaks, you can see the concave by the shadow of the light. It would be nice if it was like a totally different color, like, okay, if it's about to break, it turns red. Wouldn't that be cool? But it really depends on the light, you know, where's the sun coming from? It's just another one of those things that as you experience watching waves more, you're gonna start tuning into. So as the sun is rising and the sun is shining on the waves, then as the wave gets more vertical, the wave is gonna light up in color because it's gonna catch the sun, right? But if it's sunset and the sun is behind the wave, then as the wave rises up and about to break, it's gonna be darker on the inside. So when you're out on the water, it's funny that I'm trying to describe this and I realize that I've never like consciously thought of this before. It's like my brain just does the calculations in my head and I don't notice color. I just see, oh, this wave is going to break. But in trying to explain it to someone, what you're really looking for is color. You're looking for a change in shading of the light on the wave. So you're looking for this color, and as it stands up, it'll start to get more concave and then it'll break. And then you're looking down the line and you want to see the wave being more tapered. So you want to take off where it's steeper and go towards where it's tapering. That's what you're looking for. How are you going to know if the wave's going to break or not? Sometimes you make mistakes. Sometimes you don't know. Sometimes I don't even know. I'll be sitting there with a client and I'll be like, okay, this one's a good one. Here comes, this is going to be a good one. This is going to be a good one. Oh, wait. Actually, no. Hang on. Oh, wait, actually, go. Or, oh, actually, that one wasn't a good. You're always predicting the future and you might make a mistake. So if it's me personally surfing, I'm out there looking. I'm constantly reevaluating. I see that lump coming and I'm like, okay, here comes a wave. There's going to be a wave. I think I'm in the right spot, but where's my lineup on the beach? Because if you know what you're doing, then you've been out there and you've been noticing that the waves will break in one spot consistently if you're at a decent spot. Okay, so I'm looking at this wave. Where is it going to break? Where is it going to break? A little further over this way. Okay, here's another one. It might be a little too far out. I'm going to paddle in. Got the GoPro in my mouth again. You can see my head swinging back and forth, looking at the peak, looking down the line, at the peak, down the line, etc. And then while I'm on the wave, what you want to be looking at is the curve of the wave, the face of the wave. So on this one, eventually the whitewash broke in front of me and I had to straighten out with the longboard. I actually lost my board and my hat for a second. I was a little too deep for the longboard. So that last one was a really good wave. But I was a little too deep because it kind of closed out in front of me, at least on the longboard. So I'm going to check my lineup. There's like a little shack on the beach covered in palm fronds. And I'm going to try and sit a little further over this time so that the next set that comes, I won't be too deep. You want to adjust yourself as you're surfing. Oh, it's so cute out here. If it was like 3 times the size, woo, be firing. If you're surfing a point break or a reef break or a place like a jetty that has some sort of feature where the waves are breaking in the same place every time, even a beach break that has a defined sandbar, then you can find a lineup on the beach. So if you're in the water and the decent wave breaks, look back to the beach and find some landmark, whether it's a telephone pole or a building or a tree or a lifeguard tower. Anything you can find that you're like, okay, when I'm sitting right in front of this thing, then there's a decent wave might come. And then after you've drifted for a minute and you haven't caught a wave, look back at your landmark. Where am I? Okay, I've drifted off of that. So I'm going to paddle back to that spot. Then the next time a good wave comes, check yourself. Is this where it was breaking? Is this the spot? No, it's actually if I sit in front of the lifeguard tower, I was actually a little too deep, or I was actually a little too far inside, or whatever it is, and then you reevaluate. Now, of course, waves are going to move around. They're not going to be exactly the same spot every time, but in general, there's some feature on the beach, for the most part, that is going to be relatively consistent, even at a beach break. Now, if it's like a crazy short period wind swell, like in Florida or something, and there's no like sense to it, that's something different. But most beach breaks, even a beach break, will have changes in the sand where a good wave will tend to break. Maybe there's a deeper spot where the wave is going to break on the shallower spot and go into the deeper spot. So maybe there's a riptide or something that's made a deeper spot in the sand, and that riptide is in a certain spot, and then you can find your lineup and sit on the other side of it. So you might want to go on, sit on the shallower spot and go into the riptide, because that's where the deeper spot is. So waves are going to break in shallower water and then go towards deeper water. So if you know that, you can put yourself where the water is shallower and surf into the deeper spot. I'm trying to condense like 25 years of surf knowledge into a consumable video that answers your questions, and it is really hard. I think the main points are this. Reading waves takes a long time. It takes years. You're constantly mastering it, and you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna think a wave is gonna do something, and it's gonna surprise you and do something else. That is the beauty of surfing. That's the magic of surfing. I like personally that it does take all of your focus to read waves. And it's kind of a meditative aspect of the sport, and something that is somewhat unique to other sports. I mean, I know in snowboarding or in bicycling, you are, even driving on the freeway, you know, you're scanning the data ahead to try and guess how that's going to change as it comes to you, whether it's like other motorists, if you're biking, you know, if it's like a patch of gravel up ahead that your brain quickly notes and causes you to kind of slow down a little bit, or whatever kind of mitigating strategy you might employ to keep yourself, you know, safe in that situation. Snowboarding, you're looking for the shadows that might lead to ice or whatever. So surfing's the same, except that the substrate is moving and changing constantly. So it's not just that you see a shadow up ahead that you can prepare for or avoid. In surfing, that thing, you might see that shadow, and then 2 seconds later the shadow has moved and changed or disappeared or whatever. So it gives a whole new dimension that makes it really interesting, and of course really hard. So it's a lifetime pursuit. So in general, you're looking for a change in light that will tell you a change in concavity of the wave face. So you're looking for the wave to go from flat ocean surface into, let's do it this way, flat ocean surface into a rising swell of water that, as it gets into shallower water, gets pushed along the surface. And maybe it starts out being mushy, which is kind of like slopey and soft, and then it gets steeper and steeper and steeper, and maybe it's just going to break like this, or maybe it's going to break like that. And what you're looking for to judge that is how concave the wave face is. So as you're paddling for the wave, you want to be looking down the line towards where the wave is breaking. How close to the whitewash do you need to be in order to catch it? Is it breaking and about to go concave right on top of you? Looking over your shoulder. Is it going to break on top of me? Is it just going to crumble a little whitewash, which is actually going to help me get into it and is going to be okay? Or is it this big heaving whitewash that's going to take me out? Am I too far from where it's breaking and the wave is so soft I'm not going to be able to catch it? And if so, I better paddle closer to it and then turn and go. Am I too far in and it's getting concave way out there and I need to paddle out to it? Or am I too far out and it's not going to break until way further in and I need to paddle in towards the beach? As I'm paddling for the wave, I'm looking down the line to where I'm going to be riding. Is it already breaking there and it's just going to close out? Or am I too deep because it's breaking here but it's nice and soft over there, in which case I need to paddle this way. Let's say that this is a left. Okay, so from surfer's perspective, It's going to break on this side of me and it's going to go in that direction. So I'm looking over my right shoulder. I'm looking at, are there any surfers between me and where the wave is going to break? If no, am I close enough to where it's breaking that I'm going to be able to catch this wave? If no, I need to paddle closer to where it's breaking. Am I so close to where it's breaking that I'm actually too close to where it's breaking and I actually need to paddle this way in order to get it? Then, after you make that decision, the decision is not over because you're still paddling. You're still looking. You're like, oh, actually, I thought that I was too close to where it's breaking, but now it's not breaking. I have to paddle even harder to get it. I missed it. Or, oh my God, I thought that I had to paddle super hard, but now I'm looking that it's breaking right on top of me. I better slow down and do a super quick pop-up. And then you're looking down the line. Is this wave even worth catching? You want to be constantly reevaluating that because maybe it's not. Maybe you thought it was going to be a good one. You look, there's nobody going. You're in a good spot. You're about to catch it. Now you look down the line and go, oh, actually, it's going to close out. Or actually, there's someone paddling out right in my path. I'm not even going to waste my energy, my time, my taking myself out of the lineup to waste it on this wave. That's not going to be good. I'm going to sit up on my board and not take it. Or you're looking down the line and you're like, wow, this thing is going to be sick. I'm super excited, but I better be really quick on my pop-up because it's going to be fast. Or actually this wave looks fun, but it's kind of mushy at first, so I'm going to sort of take off straight and then wait for it to stand up this way. So there's so many different decisions and different things that you can do based on what you see, but the key is looking. You want to be looking the full 360 degrees and continually looking. Like you're gonna look, you're sitting there, you see it coming, you make your decision. Okay, I think I'm gonna need to paddle this way, and then oh shit, actually I need to paddle this way, and then oh actually I'm gonna slow down, or oh actually I'm gonna speed up, or oh there's somebody right there, I'm gonna stop. You're constantly reevaluating your decisions and making new decisions and looking again and making another decision and looking again and making another decision. And to the point where you don't have to think about it and you're just like doing this. This is where like when I'm coaching people, I wish that I had like a joystick where I could move them all around, because it's really hard because sometimes I'm seeing it, I have to see it, process it, speak it to them, and then they have to like hear it, process it, do it. And by then, even in that like 15 seconds, the situation sometimes has changed. So then I'm like, oh, actually, you know what? Can you actually, no, here, wait, slow down. And then it's just like the difference in time between me seeing it and processing it and saying it and them hearing it and processing it and do it is like too long. And then I'm like, want them to do something different. So it's hard. Reading waves is hard. But with practice and time and dedication, you will get it. And the more that you can be aware of it, the quicker that will happen. Okay. Oh yeah. All right, who's going?